Okay, so I want to welcome you to Adventures in Network Marketing. This is episode 5, and we're going to talk about increasing your vibration, like taking your vibrational level up to a higher level. Now, why am I talking about vibrational level? Because there are various frequencies that are constantly surrounding us and our environment. So, for example, if I were to walk into your home right now, and let's say you don't have a cable or internet connection, well, I can go into your house right now. I can plug in a cable, I can plug it into a box and a television set in your home, and by that connection, you now will have access to hundreds of channels of content. Okay, now was that vibrational frequency always there? Of course, the answer is yes. You just didn't have access to it. You didn't take the proper steps to access that level of information. So it's always swirling around in our environment. We just have to consciously decide to plug in. Now, the irony is in the example that I just gave you, that's actually a lower vibrational level than I'm talking about. When we talk about the electronic income reducer, the idiot box, the television, your screen, a lot of times people are spending time tuning into a frequency of entertainment because they want to escape, if you will, their regular life. They want to have a way of getting away from their routines because somewhere in their inner story, they believe that this is as good as it's going to get. And because they believe this is as good as it's going to get, they look for escape. That's why people get excited on Wednesday. They talk about hump day. They get really excited because it's closer to Friday. When Friday comes, they want to go to happy hour. They want to go out clubbing. The weekend is here. The energy goes up. Their vibration actually goes up because they have something to celebrate. What are they celebrating? Escaping their week. And what happens on Sunday is a lot of people start feeling some type of way about what's to come, which is another beginning of a work week that they're not excited about. And if you talk to anyone, more often than not, you're going to encounter these same types of feelings about their dynamics and work. And yeah, there are some people that may love their jobs more than others, but more often than not, you're going to find people who are overworked and underpaid and underappreciated. You will find more people who feel a level of disrespect, a level of extremely limited options when it comes to their ability to grow in their current occupation. And I'm talking about growth in terms of financially. And so what happens is a lot of people will start to, instead of increasing their capacity, they start to decrease their dream. So they don't want to, they instead of focusing on increasing capacity, they decrease their dream to fit into the mold of their lifestyle. And so this is why people tune into Netflix and soap operas and television series and reality TV because they would much rather watch somebody else live their life or live vicariously through them. And it could be a sporting event, it could be a football or basketball team, and that's where they divert all of their leisure time because in their mind they're locked into this lifestyle of whether it's 9 to 5 or 8 to faint, and the income has capped out, and this is pretty much what it's going to be for the rest of my life. They don't say that out loud, but internally they've resigned themselves that this is going to be what it is. And so life begins to take on a different meaning because they're being defined by their circumstances instead of being defined by their vision. And when you allow yourself to be defined by your circumstance and not your vision, then you're living a life of someone else's expectation instead of your own. Because the circumstances are things that are coming at you from the outside in instead of the vision, which is from the inside out. Because when you have a vision, it's something that you see in your mind's eye. It's not something that other people can see, it's something that you can see. So for example, when Elon Musk had this idea, and I use him as an example, not because he's a billionaire, but because he wanted to do something that in virtually everybody else's mind was completely crazy. He wanted to enter into the automobile space. Now, this is someone who founded a system of payout that enabled millions of people around the world to do transactions on the internet. It's called PayPal. He sold that, made a good chunk of money, and then he started to build and invest in other spinoffs for companies. Well, when he decided to get into the automobile space, you all have to understand, who would want to enter into a brand new person in the automobile space talking about electric cars? Now, we got BMW, we got Mercedes, we got Range Rover, we got Porsche, we got GMC, Toyota, we have Honda. We have these major players that have been dominating the game for years. And here's this guy, has zero experience, and he's like, I'm going to start a car company. It's going to be electric cars. Well, listen, everybody was like, that's not going to work. It's going to fail. You're crazy. And guess what? Elon Musk thought he was going to fail too. However, he had a vision in his mind. Okay, it was mindset. He had an idea. He didn't know if it was going to work or not, but he was very clear on what the outcome was supposed to look like. And then he would allow the reality, once he was imposing his vision on it, to decide if it was going to be workable or not. Okay? So if he had allowed himself to be dictated to by the external circumstances, which was everybody saying this ain't gonna work, it's a waste of your money, he would never have had the wherewithal and the intestinal fortitude to see it through, to create this thing called Tesla, okay, which was named after the inventor. So he creates this car, and now you have Teslas, all over, and people are predicting that in the next 20 to 30 years, more than 70% of all automobiles will be electric. Well, this was somebody that had an idea first that only he could see. And because he was committed to that idea, and he was convicted, and he stayed the course until, that's the operative word, until it came to fruition. Was it easy? Of course not. Were there many years where he was losing money? Do you know how many times he came close to completely shutting it all down because he was out of money? He was not able to pay the employees. They were way behind on production. The scheduling was way off in terms of their assembly lines. There were many, many times he came this close to just shutting the doors. However, they persevered, and they came through on the other side. And he thought he was going to be financially bankrupt, completely ruined. He was that close. Again, he didn't allow the current circumstances to define the power of his vision. That's why your vision has to be greater than your current circumstances. So what happens with people that tune into the electronic income producer? Because they've allowed their circumstances to define their vision. So I have a really good friend. He says television, telling you your vision. Telling you your vision. Think about this. If I go and spend time with Cynthia or Judy, I'll use Judy for an example because she's told me so much about her job. And I just follow Judy around. I'm like, Judy, I'm just going to watch you work. I'm just going to sit and watch you work. I'm going to sit there like this. She's going to be like, what you doing? I'm just watching you work. I'm watching you make your living. Why? Because it helps me to escape from my life and my empty bank account and my low to no income. It just gives me an escape. Judy would look at me like, what the hell is wrong? You crazy, right? But people do this all the time when they sit in front of the electronic income producer. They're watching other people live their dreams as professional athletes, professional actors, They're watching other people that live their dreams as professional game show hosts and talk show hosts, and they're watching other people live their life on reality TV. It's their life on reality TV, not yours. Them folk ain't putting no money in your bank account. They're not giving you any instruction on how to better build your business. So you got to make some decisions about the environment and what you're going to tune into so that you can increase your vibration. Now, it has been scientifically proven that when you watch television, I think they're called beta waves. I might have the wrong the scientific term, but basically the beta waves in your brain, they decrease. It lowers your intellectual vibration. So the more time you spend in front of the electronic income reducer, the idiot box, the dumber you get. That's basically the sum of it. Okay, it's been proven scientifically. So the more television you watch, the dumber you get. This is why if you go into certain people's homes who are incredibly successful, you're very hard pressed to not find a library. The library will have more prominence than the television. A lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times you'll see the library. So understanding that, the question becomes, well, what frequency, what vibration do I want to tune into? Because whatever you tune into, you turn into. All right. I got that from Justin Owens. I love that. Whatever you tune into, you turn into. So if you're wanting to elevate your vibration, think about it like this. How many of you all have ever traveled outside of your city where you grew up? You've gone somewhere else outside of your city. Anybody ever travel? Okay, great. Have you ever traveled outside of your city, had a different experience somewhere else, and then you come back to your city and you talk to someone who's never left? Have you ever had that experience? Do you notice the kind of conversation that you are limited to if you're talking to someone who has never left the neighborhood and you just got back perhaps from a different city or a different country? You ever notice how the conversation is limited? You ever notice that? Why? Because their vibrational level is lower than yours when it comes to exposure. All of a sudden, you can see things a little bit differently because you spent some time in a different situation. And now you see the neighborhood that you come back to, you see it differently. So for example, I went and I spent a week, a little over a week, as a volunteer in the 9th Ward in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, because I wanted to do it. It was a trip that I funded, and I literally was working with Habitat for Humanity. I was going door to door doing, it's not ministry, it's more like personal development ministry, we'll call it that, okay? And I had these amazing conversations, amazing interactions, and the insight, the feeling that I left with. Now, everybody here saw the footage when Katrina first hit. It was shocking to see the floods and the carnage. It left an imprint on anybody that has a heart, okay? However, when I went there and I walked through the neighborhoods and the devastation, and I looked people in the eyes and had them tell me their stories, and I could feel what they were feeling as they were communicating with me, it was a different vibrational level that I had. It was a different level of experience because I left the comfort of my home, which was New York at that time, and I went to this other place and I took in a whole different level of experience. It increased my vibrational level, my ability to empathize and to connect. So when you think about your dream, your vision, what are some ways that you increase your vibrational level? What are some ways that you can increase your interaction with the vision and the outcome. What are you putting up here on a consistent basis? So if you are a part of a group, so I'm doing this simultaneously right now with a powerful group of entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, both, who are focusing on creating significant impact on a global scale, who have cosmic-sized financial aspirations, who understand the power of building pipelines over carrying buckets, and want to make that level of impact. Well, because we get together, there's a synergy, there's a higher vibrational level that we're operating on, and I guarantee you, every single one of us has a different emotional, intellectual, spiritual high than what we would get by watching a movie. There's nothing wrong watching movies. Obviously, I love watching movies, but you got to understand there's a time and a place for everything. So when we're talking about increasing the vibration, what are you putting into this? What are you reading? So here's a book that will increase the vibration. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. It's a book that we've been reading this month. And when you look at the book and the dynamics of it, there's a statement that is repeated constantly throughout this book. It is very simple. It's in my head. Like I'm looking for it now. There is a thinking stuff, a thinking substance. And this, where is it? It's repeated so much. There's a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. So I'm going to read that first part again. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made. In the beginning was the Word, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. When you think about the universe, when you think about the universe, what do you see in your mind's eye? What do you envision? You envision darkness, and you can see the stars, you see planets, but the planets are highlighted because of what? The substance, the darkness. And in the beginning was the Word. Well, even before that, it talks about there was darkness, because you can't appreciate and there can be no light without darkness. Now, he goes on to say, a thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. So Elon Musk had a thought, he had an image in his mind's eye, mind sight over eyesight, about this electric car. That thought became imprinted on the substance until, that's the operative word, until it became manifest. He worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked consistently toward that outcome, okay? A person can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. Okay, I'm going to repeat it because I know you all read it. I've been reading this book and studying this book for years. A person can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. And we're using he in the generic sense. This book was written in the 50s. So obviously he, her, okay? He, her, they, all right? So when you understand the power of creation and you take responsibility for your power of creation, then you understand how important it is to create an environment that supports whatever the outcome is. So, example, if you in your mind have a commitment to a certain level of producing income, let's say your goal is to earn $10,000 a month, every single month, in your business endeavor. In addition to whatever you're doing as a career or your job, you want to earn an additional $10,000 a month. Well, if you've never done that before, then you have to create a level of vibration that you can not only receive it, but attract it, so that you're in alignment with that outcome. It's something that's already done before you even begin the physical activity. It's a commitment that you make in your mind before it becomes manifest. And everybody here has had some level of that experience. Think about it in your life journey. At some point in your life, there was something that you had to have. There was something you were like, I gotta get this done. Whatever it was, it may have been losing a certain amount of weight. It may have been a particular partner that you were pursuing in a relationship. It may have been a job that you had to get. It was something that you decided before it was actually manifest. And because your decision was a committed decision, there was no hesitancy. You didn't decide and then waffle. You made the decision, and then it was until. I've already decided, it's already done. I'm moving in this direction until it is done. And you actually manifested that outcome. All of you have had this experience, I know. And you look back on it, and when it's done, this is what normally happens. You accomplish this thing, and then you look back and you say, yeah, I don't know how the hell I did that. I don't know how I did that. I just remember like it had to get done. Like I had to have it. I had to do it. There was a want to, there was a will to, and there was a non-negotiable unstoppableness to getting that done. And then it was done. You must lay aside all other concepts of the universe than this monistic one. You must dwell upon this until it is fixed in your mind and has become your habitual thought. Read these creed statements over and over again. Fix every word upon your memory and meditate upon them until you firmly believe what they say. If a doubt comes to you, cast it aside as sin. Do not listen to arguments against this idea. Do not go to churches or lectures where a contrary concept of things is taught or preached. Do not read magazines or books which teach a different idea. If you get mixed up in your faith, all your efforts will be in vain. What do so many people do? They flip-flop. They're excited one day and they're cold the next. They believe in unlimited possibility one day and then they're doubting themselves the next. They tell you they're going to be rich and successful one day and then they go back and they start shrinking and fearing and doubting the next. This is how the human mind works. And every time you do that, you're diluting and you're literally short-circuiting all of the forces that want to come in alignment with you to get you to that outcome. People do this all of the time. They flip-flop. One day, they're unstoppable. Next day, they're a wimp. One day, they're Superman. They're Superwoman. Next day, they're a punk. One day, they're a wolf. Next day, they're a whiner. They go back and why? Because they're not strategically setting up their environment to support the vibration. How do you set up an environment to support the vibration? Number one, if you're going to be in front of the idiot box, the electronic income producer, then be deliberate about it. Hey, this is my entertainment time. Me and my lady going to watch a movie. Me and my kids are going to watch a Disney, whatever, right? Have that time. Watch the movie and then done. Get back to work. Finish that chapter. Finish that journaling that you were doing. Secondly, who are you spending time with? Are you surrounding yourself with individuals that have a level of aspiration and goals and ambition that will increase yours and you will increase theirs because you guys are sharpening each other? Or have you surrounded yourself around people who are settled in that routine? They've resigned themselves to a life of mediocrity, a life of being overworked and underpaid and underappreciated. And so they're just looking for an escape on the weekend. I'm too tired. I can't be doing something else. My job takes enough out of me as it is. You talk about going out here and and being passionate and impacting people and changing the world and making all kinds of money. I ain't got time for all that. I'm tired. Like, my job takes so much out of me. I just need to rest. I'm going to watch me some TV and have a dinner and call it a night. So if you're surrounding yourself around that vibration, it's going to lower yours. I love what Muhammad Ali would always say. He would say, listen, every time I talk to you, I feel like my IQ goes down. You lowering my IQ just being around you. I can't be talking to you. You lowering my IQ. If people are lowering your vibration, you got to create some space. Got to be selfish. You got to be selfish. In order to elevate, you got to let go. In order you got to give up to get up, right? You got to let go of some things so that you can elevate. What happens when the space shuttle takes off, right? When the space shuttle takes off, it's got all these propellers on it. And as the space shuttle takes off, it's expending all of this energy. It's about 80% of the fuel is going to get burned up in the takeoff. And as it begins to elevate, what happens? Things begin to jettison. It jettisons all these pieces. And it goes from this big, ship to this like pod by the time it gets to the atmosphere, the outer atmosphere. Why? Because you have to give up to go up. You got to let some things go in order to elevate at a higher vibrational level. You don't necessarily need a bunch of people operating at a higher level, because you're not going to find that. Most people do just enough to stay in enough pain to maintain their current lifestyle. So you're not looking for most people. You're looking for a few good men, a few good women that you can strategically partner and lock arms with in order to elevate. So are you doing things deliberately around the people that you are allowing into your space as you are focusing on your vision and your outcome? You know why these things are important? You know why it's important to not just read this book, not just read it, but to study this book. You got to study this book, because if you're not studying this book, you're missing it. You're missing it. And if you're missing it, then you're gonna wonder why I have these dreams and goals and desires for a better life, but it just seems that no matter what I do, I can't get there, because you're doing the wrong things. And you're putting your energy and focus on the wrong things instead of the right things. You're putting your focus and energy on what you don't have and what's not happening, what's missing, and why you can't do it. And you entertain doubt. You entertain failure. You entertain not seeing it through. And see, the only people that quit or give up in life are people that believed they were going to quit in the first place. Those are the people that quit. Because you got to have that in you somewhere. That, I call it that bitch ass in you, right? You got to have that in you somewhere where you easily succumb. You easily punk out, whip out, check out. You look for and hope for wishes and excuses. One of my brilliant wealth mentors, he said to me one day, he's like, listen, he said, people are always looking for a way out. They're always looking for a way out of their commitments, a way out of their aspirations. Why do you think so many people have these lofty goals at the beginning of every year? And why do you think just as many people fall off before the first quarter even ends? Why do you think that is? Because they never believed that they were going to do it in the first place. They were never committed in the first place. How many of you all know people that have gotten married and then a year later they're divorced? 2 years later they're divorced. How many of y'all seen that? I've attended weddings and I'm like, hey, how y'all doing? Oh, you ain't heard? I'm like, no, I ain't heard. Like this, I was just at your wedding last year. I'm like, yo, I want a refund. Like, I spent all that money. I bought a nice suit, came to the hotel, flight, and you divorced, I want a refund. Like, if you can't last at least 10 years, then it should be built into the contract. All of your guests get a refund. I bet you more people will stay married. They may not like each other, but they stay married. And of course, I'm not talking about abuse, if your partner's harming you, I ain't talking about that. I'm just talking about people that get divorced because they lazy in their relationship. But my point is that most people are looking for an excuse not to follow through because they never took the time to cultivate the vibration and the thinking in the first place. It's not enough for you to want a better life. It's not enough for you to want to get in shape. It's not enough for you to want more money. You have to be more money. You have to be in shape. You have to be a better life, a better version of you. Well, how do you do that? By the action steps. Every day. My face is in this book every day. Because that's the book that we're reading this month, right? Every day. Because I understand, as simply as it is written, it is also incredibly profound. Because there are concepts in here that if you really understand them, put them into practice, your life will change forever. I'll give you an example. When I started to really understand the power of the thinking substance, you know what I started to do? I started to imagine myself doing certain things long before I actually did them. I started to dance with that imagery and invest emotional time and space into that imagery. Why? Because the brain does not distinguish between what we imagine and what is real. And because the brain doesn't distinguish, I understood I'm a creator. I have the power to dictate outcomes in my particular reality. I cannot control what other people do or don't do. I cannot control events that happen around the world. The only thing I can control is my attitude and my response. My attitude and my response. So if I choose to have a powerful, upbeat, positive attitude in the midst of struggle, trial, and tribulation, I am separating myself. It's easy to be upbeat and excited when everything is going well, correct? Can you be that as excited, if not more, when it's a complete crap show? The second thing was my response. What am I doing in the response to this? Well, I make a decision that I'm going to continue to stay focused on the outcome. You see, when you're in your car and you're headed to a destination and you hit a roadblock, you don't sit in the car and stop at the roadblock and throw your hands up and say, oh, well, there's a roadblock. Guess I'm not going to get to the destination. I ain't going. We ain't going. It's a wrap. It's done. It's a wrap. It's over. And you sit there and you cry in your car. No. What's the alternate route? What is the alternate route? So you look for an alternate route because you've already committed to get to the destination. You've already decided that I'm going to arrive. It's the exact same thing with your dreams and your goals. Once you make that decision and you put it in your success GPS, topic for another day, it's a wrap. It's done. So this is why the study of this book is important. It's not enough to read it. It's not enough to read it. You got to study this book and understand it. And some people are like, well, I don't want to be rich. Yeah, okay. You're misunderstanding. First of all, you can be rich in relationships. You can be rich in love. You can be rich in contribution. You can be rich in impact. You can be rich in connection. You can be rich with resources and resourcefulness. And here's a clue. If anybody here honestly was thinking that, you're thinking, I don't want to be rich. Well, I saw an interesting piece on a gentleman who decided he doesn't want to live using money. And he literally lives in the forest. They did a great piece on him and they followed him around. And he kills raccoons and squirrels and rabbits. And he literally sleeps in the forest. He will sometimes go into reservoirs to wash up. And he said the only thing he uses that has to do with money is the library. He will go into the library and he'll scour the internet for information on how he can better survive. And that's an extreme lifestyle. But he decided, like, money's not important. Okay, I respect that. But don't tell me you don't want to be rich when you pay bills and you have a mortgage or you pay rent, you drive a car, you have gas, you got responsibilities, you got clothes, you got to eat, you got kids. Don't tell me that. Tell me that you just want to be selfish, that you don't care about anybody else. Tell me that. That I can buy. Don't tell me you don't want to be rich. If you tell me you don't care about anybody else, you want to be a selfish, great. Then you can do that because you don't need money to give. You don't, because money just makes you more of what you are. It allows you to be more giving. It allows you to provide a significantly better lifestyle for your family, to take care of your elders. You could do so much in your community. If you have a church home, if you believe in certain causes, if you want to have an impact on the world, starvation, homelessness, you could do so much more with the more money that you have. And I love what John D. Rockefeller said. He said, my responsibility is to make as much money as I possibly can in order to give as much money as I possibly can. Why do you know the name John D. Rockefeller? Some of y'all, you haven't even read the book Titan. You don't even know the name of the book. It's Titan. It's about him. But you know the name. You know why you know the name? Because he was a tremendous giver. You know why he was a tremendous giver? Because it was his assignment to make as much money as he possibly could to have that much more impact, because he wanted to be selfless. I'm not saying he wasn't selfish, but he wanted to be selfless as well. And sometimes you got to be a little selfish so you can be a lot of selfless. Sometimes you got to be a little selfish so you can be a lot of selfless. Begin with the end in mind. Make sure your vision is bigger than your current circumstances, and keep elevating your vibrational level. The more you elevate, the higher you vibrate, the more you're going to be able to impact and dictate the lifestyle that you want to create for yourself, your family, and your community. This has been Adventures in Network Marketing, Episode 5. Get your vibration up. Peace.